Hello Fast Fam, thanks for tuning in. I'm Craig Lieberman and I've been tinkering on cars since 1980. I've owned more than 40 cars in my life. Some were heroes, some were zeros. But never in my wildest dreams would I ever guess that 3 of my cars would go on to star in a motion picture franchise. My Supra, my GTR, and my Maxima all had starring roles in Universal's Fast and Furious movies. Over the next 3 years, I'd served Universal as a technical advisor. I helped choose the cars, procure the parts, oversee their builds, and support both production and post-production. I've got some great stories to tell, and that's why I created this channel. I hope you like the video. Working for Universal was one of the best experiences of my life. I hope I've made that clear in my videos, despite my critiques of some of the graphics and some of the choices they made with some of the cars. I was very pleased with how Universal, and in particular, the members of the cast and crew treated me. Not just because they rented my Supra, my Maxima, and GTR for the first couple of movies, but because my role as technical advisor blossomed into many other roles with Universal. Being a technical advisor afforded me the opportunity to be a part of many facets of the production, including overseeing building of the cars, being on set during filming, being a big part of the sound recording process, giving interviews to the press with the actors during the press junket, promoting the movie by traveling to car shows with Paul Walker, and traveling to foreign countries to help promote the movie, and some other interesting projects just like this one that we're going to talk about today. If you purchased any of the DVDs for the first couple of movies, hopefully you've watched some of the behind-the-scenes segments. RJ DeVere and I were asked to participate in a few of these segments, as those of you who have watched them probably know. One in particular was in the works at Universal, and I was asked to co-host it. This new version of the DVD was not only to rekindle interest of the first Fast and Furious movie, but it was also designed to tie into the promotion for the upcoming release of Too Fast, Too Furious. In fact, this new DVD featured a free ticket to go see the second movie. One of the features of this DVD would be a full build of an import tuner car. Tricking out a hot import car was supposed to be a fun segment focusing on building the hype for tuner cars, and in particular the Mitsubishi Evo, which was set to have a starring role in Too Fast, Too Furious, as most of you know. Mitsubishi sponsored the segment. Universal wanted to embrace all the tuning trends of the era: wild paint jobs, graphics, neon lighting, multiple TV screens, and of course, NOS. The segment was produced by a guy by the name of John Murphy, who did many of the DVD features for the first 2 movies. Working on what Universal called a modest budget, and when I say modest, I mean that we didn't have a multi-million-dollar budget to build a car and to film, edit, and produce a segment. I was given pretty much free rein to build a car as I saw fit, so long as I included some of the sponsored brands that we planned to work with for Too Fast, Too Furious. My plan was to build a car the way I would have done it if I were building a street show car. I wanted to work with the best companies, but still lean on our sponsors for help where needed and appropriate. A fun fact, APC had signed on as a sponsor, but unable to find anything worthwhile in the catalog for an Evo, I simply selected one of their branded air fresheners, and you can see it hanging from the rearview mirror of the car in a couple of shots. We started with a 2003 Mitsubishi Evo 8, which was just starting production. We got one of the very first cars off the production line, which started in January of 2003. For the build, I leaned heavily on the companies I trusted. Quigley's Paint and Body. They did the full repaint using a House of Color Candy Red. This is the same place that painted my movie Supra, my R34 GTR, my movie Maxima, as well as many other cars I owned. Interiors were handled by Revo at Stitchcraft Custom Interiors in Huntington Beach, California. Revo and Steve had done interiors for many of my cars and for most of my customers and many of the movie cars. For the engine work, we solicited the gurus at HKS, who provided a turbo upgrade, a new front mount intercooler, injectors, cam gears, intake, exhaust, and the tuning and monitoring boxes necessary to make the car run reliable. Dyno tuning was done at Apex Integration, who also supplied the gauges and a lot of their elbow grease to get the car tuned properly. Universal wanted us to incorporate some of the participating sponsors for Too Fast, Too Furious, as I mentioned. That meant using Roja wheels, a Fast and Furious branded nitrous system from the parent company Nitrous Express, Lightning audio equipment, amps and speakers, and a Panasonic head unit. So they provided many of the components. A roll cage was custom fabricated for this car, and it was done by the same people who did my Supra. The segment starts off with the Playboy Playmate of the Year from 2002, the lovely Dalene Curtis. Don't be fooled by her stunning good looks. She's actually educated and very intelligent. A fun little fact, she ended up marrying the son of Fletcher Jones, the same Fletcher Jones who owns many high-end luxury car dealerships throughout the United States of America. The first scene shows Dalene and I pulling up in my first Lamborghini, a 1998 Monterey edition. The segment was mostly unscripted and we had to ad-lib a lot. We had to do 3 or more takes for each line and change it up each time, and the editors decided ultimately what they would keep when they edited the final piece. Dalene, as wonderful as she was, simply wasn't an automotive expert, so we decided to play with our lines a bit. What resulted was a lot of cringeworthy dialogue. While I wasn't happy with what lines they ended up using, it was their production and hence it was their choice, but boy, I'd give anything for them to have to use some different pieces of dialogue. In any case, we start the build process at the paint shop. The car was silver originally, so a full repaint with door jambs was planned. This meant disassembling the entire car, door handles, bumpers, hoods, everything. The Quigley team was able to do the full repaint in just 3 weeks. They had 4 guys working on it. While the car was at paint, the seats and interior panels were sent over to Stitchcraft to do their magic. That process took another couple of weeks, which was fast for them. Once the paint job was finished, the car itself went to Stitchcraft so that they could finish the interior and also do the audio install. Reese Millen's company sent over some carbon fiber goodies and did some work under the hood before we sent the car over to HKS. There, HKS did the installation of all the tuning and suspension bits. While the car was at HKS, we bolted on a set of Roja wheels for good measure, and the final stop was XS Engineering, where the dyno tuning and graphics were completed. Modern Image used a design inspired by a livery I had seen in the UK. It used both metallic gray and Modern Image used a design inspired by a livery I had seen in Great Britain. It used both metallic gray vinyl and reflective white vinyl. Tuning of the car was very conservative, given that we knew that anyone who would drive this car after we gave it back to Universal would probably drive the piss out of it. So boost levels were low. Even with the modest tune though, the car made 310 horsepower at the wheels. Even though the final edit showed only 289 horsepower, they simply just didn't show all the footage. So what happened to this car? It's still around, believe it or not. It made a brief appearance as a background car in Tokyo Drift in the parking garage scene. And for those wondering, this car was not used as Sean's Drift Evo. That was a completely different car. As of 2020, this car is now in Maryland and has seen many changes over the years. The car still uses much of the original parts we used, including the HKS 3037 turbo kit, the front mount intercooler, the AMS fuel rail, 750cc injectors, HKS cam gears, and so forth. But it's been updated with ARP head studs, 272 cams, an XD dual disc clutch, and so forth. The current owner reports that the ECU was especially challenging to deal with. The car originally had a Japanese Evo file on the ECU, and so it had to be reflashed with a US DM file. After that, this car made 408 horsepower to the wheels and a little over 500 at the crank. At one point, it was offered for sale several years ago for $75,000. Obviously, it didn't sell. The stereo system and interior have been altered to help the owner score better at car shows, so that's a little different from when we had it. But the red paint, which has held up very well for more than 15 years, was damaged when the owner tried to remove the graphics. So, in April of 2020, the current owner reported that his Evo is now getting a Veris body kit and a new paint job, and so it will look very, very different. And so, while the car will live on, it will never be what it was back when we featured. Some might say it will be even better. I tend to agree. Before I wrap up, I just wanted to give you a sneak peek of what videos are coming up. I get this question a lot. I'll be focusing on the main cars of these movies, and I will cover the cars more or less in the order of the movie releases. I'm focusing on primary cars, cars that were used by the stars of the films. I will not be covering background cars or cars that had virtually no part in Matrix sequences or stunts, just not worth the time. I will also skip cars that were bone stock, like the Viper in Tokyo Drift, for example. No purpose in talking about that car as stock. Cars for which I have videos in the works include the following: Edwin's Integra, complete specs and story. Sean's Monte Carlo, everybody loves that car. Morimoto's 350Z, Hans RX-7, that's in the queue. The Mona Lisa, the S15 Mona Lisa. The Tokyo Drift Evo, of course. The Ford Escorts from Fast 6. The Grand National from Fast 4. These are the cars that are just at the top of my list. These videos won't be produced in this order, and other topics will be covered as well. Just a reminder that when you ask questions on my YouTube channel, your best bet is to first scroll through my videos to see if I've already covered the car or the topic. Thanks for watching, everyone, and please remember to share these videos with your friends, and of course, subscribe to get notifications so you can find out when my latest video has dropped. That's going to be it for this week. Thanks again. We'll see you next time.